Hi, everybody.
Allora, grazie per l'invito.
So thank you for the... Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you for the invitation.
Il mio inglese non mi consente di parlarvi
English,
con
I don't
l'anima,
master the English language enough to speak from my soul.
quindi vi parlo in italiano.
Therefore, I'll be speaking
E Chiara
Italian
traduce.
through a translator, Chiara.
Perché per poter
Because to be
utilizzare
able to
quella
use
terminologia che
that
piace a me,
kind of words that I'm fond of,
non ci arriverò mai con
there's
l'inglese.
I'm never going to have a chance
dico
to do
solo
that in
questa.
English. Just let me tell you
E
one
poi
thing.
incominciamo,
And then we'll start, promise.
A un certo punto
So
Sant'Agostino,
at one point,
nel
Saint
300
Augustine,
d.C.
in
dice,
300 AD, he said,
ascoltate in inglese,
listen,
eccellentissimo
you
reggitore
excellent, almighty ruler
onnipotente
of the
dell'universo.
universe.
Tu che ci mandi il dolore con
You
me.
who send the grief and
Quando
sorrow
io
as
posso
a
imparare un
teacher,
inglese
how can I possibly master the
per
language so
dirvi
as to say,
eccellentissimo,
you
onnipotente
excellent,
reggitore?
almighty ruler of
Mai,
the universe? Never.
mai.
It's never going to happen.
Well, I was going to begin this panel by saying that Mr. Cucinelli needs no introduction, but that's largely because he introduces himself. Anyone who's spent time with him will know that he's not just a creative and commercial entrepreneur, a wonderful host, he's also a philosopher. And so I wanted to start with his philosophies around his brand, specifically humane capitalism. Why? Why is this the cornerstone of your business?
Ma se io vi parlassi in piedi, voi sareste
Well,
più
what
contenti?
about me standing instead of sitting while I'm talking to you? Would you be happy with that?
Perché a me mi piace di più.
Because I prefer it. Let's sit
No,
down.
no, sit down. Io quando devo fare le cose importanti,
So when I have to hold important,
io ho bisogno di stare in piedi.
I need to stand, you see.
E io sono venuto stamattina
And
da
I
Perugia
have come to you this morning from
e torniamo
Perugia,
stasera.
and we're going back
Per
later
voi,
on
per
for
voi.
you. That's the only reason why.
Perché io alla fine di
Because
questo meeting
at the end of this meeting,
voglio aver convinto
I want
almeno
to
una
have
persona
convinced at least one single person, one of you,
di quello che io penso.
of what my take is, what my thoughts are.
Guardate, due cose sulla
You
vita
see,
perché
just
possiate
a couple
capire.
of things on my life so you can get the picture.
Io ho vissuto fino a 15
So
anni,
until I was 15
facevamo i
years
contadini.
of age, I spent my life in the countryside. We were farmers.
avevamo la
As a
luce in
family,
casa.
we had no electricity.
Non avevamo
At
l'acqua.
home, we had no running water.
E come hai vissuto?
And you might ask, how did you live?
Benissimo.
Great. It was great.
Mi sono ubriacato
Was always dizzy
dal colore del cielo e delle stelle.
with the color of the skies, the heavens, and the stars. I was drunk on that all the time.
Perché?
Because you see,
Quindi fino a 15 anni
so
non ero,
until I was
non ero un
15
bambino, ero un
years of age, I
ragazzino,
was
no?
not really an infant, a small
Allora,
child.
Quando lavoravamo la terra io ero
When we
responsabile
tilled the land, I was the person
di tirare le vacche.
charged to pull the oxen.
E voi sapete che
And you know fully
perché
well
i solchi
that
vengono
for your
dritti,
furrows to
lo
be
facevamo a mano,
perfectly
no?
straight,
Insomma,
you have to, everything
mio babbo
manual
aveva
work.
l'aratro.
My father would hold the plow,
Mio babbo mi diceva,
and my
attenzione,
father would warn me, be careful,
le vacche devono essere
because
dritte.
your oxen, they need to step perfectly along
perché,
the furrow.
babbo?
And I said, Dad, why?
Perché se no i solchi vengono
Because
storti.
otherwise the furrow will be all crooked.
E se
And I
vengono
said,
storti,
and so what's wrong with that?
sono belli.
Well, they would not be beautiful, would they?
Quando Goethe
When Goethe
è venuto
came
in
to
Toscana, mi
Tuscany,
guardava sempre
he
questo
was
contadino che
kept
faceva così.
staring at this farmer who was looking at the furrow.
Ma che guardi?
I said, what are you looking at?
Guardo i campi.
Said, I'm looking at my fields.
E perché li guardi?
And why are you staring at your
Perché
fields?
guardo i solchi.
Because I'm looking,
E perché
checking
guardi i
that everything
solchi?
is straight and perfect.
Perché devono essere dritti.
They need to be beautiful, straight.
Perché dritti? Perché sono
And why? Because they look better that way.
Questa è la verità.
So this is the truth.
Noi vivevamo in armonia
We
con il
lived
creato.
in harmony with
Recuperavamo
creation.
l'acqua piovana,
Because we would collect and use
pettinavamo il
rainwater.
coniglietto,
We would really
perché
take
con il-
care and
con-
pamper all
con il
of all
pelo
our rabbits,
facevamo-
because
si
then
vendeva
we
per
would
il
use
pullover.
the fur to then make our own sweaters.
ma più di tutti
But
avevamo un
most of
rapporto
all,
bello con
we
il creato.
enjoyed a great relationship with creation
Sapete,
around us.
la sera il sole
Because you
andava
see,
giù,
in the evening, the sun would set,
tu guardavi il
and
sole
you would
e
look
si
at the sun
determinava quale
setting,
potesse
and
essere
you
la
would
giornata il
know
giorno dopo, no?
what the weather would be like the day after.
Quindi qui è molto
So it
interessante.
was a very interesting kind of life.
Quando raccoglievamo il grano,
When we were harvesting our grain,
poi finisco se no l'intervista,
okay, then I'll be wrapping up.
la prima balla di
The
grano
first bale, the first bag of grain, my
la
grandfather,
portava
he would
alla comunità.
donate it to the community.
Si fermava, si faceva il segno
Then
della
he would
croce. lo
stop
portava.
there, cross himself, and then
Ecco,
give it
lì
to the community.
ho cominciato a
That's
capire
exactly when I
l'umanità ha
started
bisogno
grasping and understanding
di prodotti,
that
di profitto e di
mankind needs profit to be
Noi
balanced
abbiamo
off with
bisogno
giving back.
di
And we
riequilibrare
ourselves,
profitto
we
e dono.
need to redress the balance between profits and giving back.
Voi siete giovani,
You are all young
voi
here,
siete
more the audience.
nuovi custodi
are
del
the
creato.
new guardians, the upcoming guardians of
Siamo
creation.
custodi del creato.
So we are all
Siete
guardians,
d'accordo?
if you think about it. We're here for
Quindi
short. So
dovete da domani essere diversi.
from tomorrow, you must be different.
Quindi questa è la prima parte della vita.
So this was the first
Vissuta
part
bene.
of my life that was lived very well.
But your father at one stage, I understand, worked in a factory, and that changed your perspective a little bit.
Certo, sì. Sicuro.
Well, yes, that's for sure.
La vita in
You can
campagna.
say that. So
Poi
this
siamo
was
andati a
my
vivere
life
vicino
in
una
the
città.
country, and then we moved in the,
Io ho
to the
fatto
city,
10 anni,
the town, and I spent 10
non ho
years,
fatto niente.
and I actually didn't do
Ho fatto 3 anni
anything,
di ingegneria.
nothing.
Esame.
So I was enrolled in engineering for 3 years. I sat one single exam in 3 years.
Ho vissuto una
Then
vita fatta
I
di scherzi,
lived
di
a
giochi.
life made up of pranks and jokes. That was I was doing
Però
all day long.
discutevamo di
But
donne,
at the
di
same
politica,
time,
di
we would
economia.
talk and discuss
Alla
about
vita del
women,
bar
politics
italiano.
at the Italian bar. That's your typical Italian bar.
Una sola volta mio babbo mi ha detto,
Just once my father said to me,
come va
so
all'università?
how's your university going?
Hai 3 anni, un
3
esame.
years, one exam. So,
Babbo,
and I
potrebbe
said,
andare un
it
pochino
could be
meglio.
better, Dad. Slightly better. Could be better.
Però lui ha cominciato ad andare a lavorare in fabbrica.
So my father took up a job in a factory.
La sera tornava, io avevo
In
15 anni,
the
lui
evening,
45.
I was 15 back then, he was 45.
diceva,
He would come back home and
fatto io
say,
a Dio
what
per
have I done wrong to God to be belittled and humiliated all the time at the
E
workplace?
io non capisco.
And I couldn't comprehend, and still I
si
cannot
debba umiliare
understand
un essere umano.
why you would have to humiliate a human being
Allora lì ho
like
cominciato
that.
a dirmi, non so
That's
che
why
cosa farò
I
nella vita,
started saying, I don't know what will become of me,
ma io voglio farlo per la
but
dignità
I definitely want
morale ed
to work
economica.
in order to foster the human and economic dignity of
Questa
human
è
beings.
stata la grande scelta
That
della
was
vita.
the great choice that I made in my life, my
Poi,
tenet.
su sto barretto
And
la
then
sera,
you see in this local cafe in the evening,
cominciamo a discutere di filosofia.
so we started talking philosophy, you know.
Io non ho studiato niente.
I did not know anything because I
E
was not a
questo
good
mio amico
student.
parlava sempre di
And
Kant.
my friend kept talking
Poi,
about
perché
Immanuel Kant, you know, Kant, the philosopher
bar.
here, because at
come
the bar,
teatro.
it was like a theater, like being on stage there.
Allora vado a comprare questo testo di
So
Kant.
I decided to buy this book by Immanuel Kant,
Difficilissimo oggi
very
ancora.
difficult still
No,
today.
difficile oggi.
Extreme difficult today to read.
Per quel tempo
Back
difficilissimo.
then, extremely difficult.
Però ci sono state due espressioni che
But
mi hanno
I
cambiato la vita.
actually retrieved two
Una che
statements
conoscete, no?
that I really changed my life. One, I'm sure you
Due
know.
cose mi emozionano.
Two things move me.
Cielo
There is
stellato
the
sopra
starry
di me
sky
e la
above
legge
me
morale.
and the moral law within me.
Ma ce n'è una ancora
But there
più
is
bella.
one more that is even better.
Agisci
You should
considerando
act
l'umanità
always considering mankind,
sia per te stesso,
both for yourself and for your
non come
fellows,
semplice mezzo.
not as a simple
come
means.
nobile fine.
Mankind should be your noble end.
E lì mi sono
That's
innamorato
when
della
I
filosofia.
absolutely fell in love with philosophy.
E ancora oggi la
And still today,
And
it
those are the
lasts.
building blocks of the business. And I think we need to move it into the present day. And I'd love to just move the conversation on to Solomeo, the town that you live in, that you've invested so much in, and tell the audience a little bit about how Solomeo reflects these formative experiences that you've had. What is it like to be a worker in Solomeo for Brunello Cucinelli?
Sì, è vero, però ve devo dire come ho iniziato.
Well, it's true, but I also have
Io
to
non
tell you
c'avevo
how
niente.
it all started. I
Non avevo
had
studiato
nothing in my
niente.
pocket. I
Sapevo solo
hadn't
giocare a
studied
carte.
anything. The only thing I could do was
E ho avuto
play
l'idea di
cards.
fare
And I came up with this
Made in Italy.
idea of
Volevo fare Made in
having
Italy.
made in Italy. I wanted made in Italy. That was
E
my goal.
qualcosa di
And
lusso
I
vero.
wanted to make something that was true luxury.
L'idea di cashmere.
So I came up with
Ma non
cashmere.
sapevo che
But I
fosse.
didn't even know what it was, you know?
Allora mio babbo gli
So
dico,
my dad, I said to him,
caro babbo,
Dear
mi
Dad,
metto a fare pullover
so
di cashmere.
I'm going to make cashmere pullovers.
Mio babbo mi ha detto,
He looked at me
"Non
and
ho capito
said,
niente,
I didn't understand
fai
one
un po'
single
tu,
word,
che
but
Dio ti protegga.
may God
Avete
protect you.
capito?
It's up to you. Do you
Se
understand?
noi genitori,
If we
voi tornate
parents,
a casa,
if you come back,
chiedete
children, to us and you ask us,
ai vostri genitori che avete
say,
deciso di fare
parents,
qualcosa,
say you want to, you have a new
noi
project.
genitori vi
We
diciamo,
parents usually
che
say,
cosa fate?
well, why
Chi
are
dà i
you doing
soldi?
that? Where are you
Dove
going to
la
get the money for
producete?
that? Where are you going to
Non li
produce it?
ascoltate.
So do not pay any heed to what your
Voi
parents say.
ascoltate noi genitori
Listen,
solo quando
only
parliamo
listen
di
to
grandi
us,
ideali,
parents, when we talk about great ideals. That's when you have to
della
listen.
bella
to us.
politica,
When we talk about
della
beautiful
spiritualità,
politics, spirituality,
della famiglia
family,
e della religione.
and religion. That's the only time
poi
you have to listen to us.
Andiamo a...
And then
Studiate poco,
do not study too much, okay? Do not
anche un po' meno di poco.
even less than little, less than that.
Sei matto.
Because you might say, this
No,
guy is silly,
Perché
crazy.
prima studi tutta la
No, because you see, you are going to learn across
Poi
your whole life.
c'è
throughout your whole life.
un'intelligenza da
And at
studio
the
e una
same time, there are
dell'anima.
two kinds of intelligence, one that comes from education and the other one from
Quella
your
da
soul.
studio imparerai
And you know,
qualcosa.
the one related to education, you will learn
Quella
something,
dell'anima fa la
but the
differenza.
intelligence of your
Quando
soul,
affrontate
that
il
makes the
mondo,
difference. When you tackle the
se siete
world,
aperti al
if you are
mondo,
open to the world,
a ogni tipo di essere
you
umano,
see, if you're open
ogni
to
tipo di
welcome
lingua, di
any kind of
religione.
human being, language, religion,
Jean-Jacques Rousseau nel
Jean-Jacques Rousseau in
1765 dice:
1765
non posso
stated,
minimamente
I can't
immaginare che
even
ci sia un
envision
essere
that there
umano
is
simile a
one
me.
single individual that is similar to me.
Quindi io mi sono messo a
So,
fare pullover di cashmere.
I decided
Colorati?
to make colored
piacevano
cashmere
i colori.
sweaters. So that's the idea.
Poi due, e lo facciamo nel paesino di mia moglie.
And we are basically based in my wife's
Piccolo borgo,
birth
era tutto disabitato,
place.
no?
There was no one living there, the
Sì,
small
perché questo
hamlet here.
è una torre del
This is a
1300.
tower dating back to the 14th century.
Quindi la sede volevo che fosse qualcosa
So
di carino.
I wanted the headquarters to be, pleasant, nice,
Cashmere
feeling.
colorato,
So colored
una sede
cashmere
carina.
in a
E
nice
quando
headquarters.
andavo le prime
And
volte a vendere nel mondo,
the first time I would travel the world to try and place
ma
my
chi fa
product,
cashmere? Ah sì,
they
lo
would
faceva
say,
mio babbo
do you
50 anni
do
fa.
cashmere? Yes, my dad
Certo che io
started the
faccio
business 50 years ago. Of course, I've just
Perché se no,
picked it up.
se no non mi compravano.
Because otherwise nobody would believe in me, just me setting up the business.
Dovete farvi voler bene.
You need to make others love you.
Questo è il grande
That's
tema della vita.
the real thing in life, what matters the most.
How many workers do you have in Solomeo today?
Sì, sì, io so. Se in tutti questi anni
So if
non ho capito la domanda sua, sono messo male.
I have done so much English, I must have understood the question. So he's
Ho
just telling me
fatto
that he had got the
11
question. So
settimane
I spent 11 weeks here,
da
there,
solo in inglese.
just me and my English teacher, just the two of us.
Qualche volta ho detto adesso mi butto dalla
Sometimes
torre.
I say I'm going to
Perché
throw
arriva il
myself out of the
maestro, arriva
window.
il professore al
Because
mattino,
he would
mattino fa,
turn
"Good
up in the
morning."
morning, say,
Good morning. Però sapete,
but you know,
capisco,
I can
non mi
understand,
vergogno a parlare
but I'm
inglese.
so ashamed of speaking.
Sono proprio tonto.
But really, I must be really big.
Invece in francese
Whereas in
parlo,
French, I can get
dico
by.
anche belle coglionerie.
I also say talk bullshit,
parlo.
truth be told, but still, I am not ashamed
Allora,
of talking
adesso
bullshit.
veniamo a voi.
Now, let's come.
Voi siete giovani, stilisti. Giusto, siete stilisti.
You are young. You're all fashion designers, right?
Mix. A whole mix of people.
Sì, quello che fate, fate.
Well, whatever you do.
Voi
Anyway,
dovete essere persone per
you
bene.
must be good people.
Dovete
That's
farvi
what
voler
matters.
bene. Dovete
You
avere un
must
sogno.
really have others love you. You must
Una
have a
vita-
dream.
Una vita senza sogni.
Because a
non ha
life
nessuna
without
logica di
dreams
essere-
has no reason to be lived.
Abbiate il tempo.
You should
Per la
find
vostra
the time to nurture your soul.
Questa idea di essere connessi,
So this idea of
No, da noi
being
nella nostra
online
azienda
all the time.
si è connessi
See,
dalle 8 alle
in
5 e
our
mezza
company,
del
you can
pomeriggio.
only be online between 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. That's it.
Yes, 8 to 5:30 are very favorable working hours for many of us here. That would be ideal. What else is it like working in Solomeo? I want to give a sense of what it's like to work for you.
Ascolta, ascolta.
Yes, listen.
Nel 500
In
d.C.
500
mette 3
AD,
grandi regole benedette.
so Saint Benedict set
Lui
3
dice,
great rules.
cura
And
ogni
he
giorno
said,
la mente
you
con lo
should do
studio.
after your mind every day through study,
l'anima con la preghiera.
your soul through
Preghiera
praying,
significa
and by praying,
discutere con te
it
stesso,
means
col
that you
cielo.
spend time with yourself, with the great ideals,
lavora.
and then you should work.
Non vi fate prendere da quelli che dicono
So
lavora
do not
costantemente.
pay any heed
Ma che
to those
lavori
who say
costantemente?
work all the time.
Voi
Why
dovete
work
lavorare
all the time? You have to
poco,
work
il giusto.
little, just
si
a
entra
fair
alle
amount.
8,
Here, so
c'è il
we
pranzo
basically
all'1:30, all'1.
start work at 8 a.m., then lunch 1 p.m.,
perché alle 1 la pasta per
because
noi
at 1
italiani è
p.m.
qualcosa di
pasta
importante.
is something that you can't
Spaghetti
miss.
sono
As an
importanti.
Italian, spaghetti is
Poi
important.
si lavora alle 1:30,
Then
fino
you
alle 5:30.
restart work, you resume your work at 2:30 until 5:30.
Ma scusate,
But you see,
ma è giusto che dopo le 5:30,
do you think
dopo la
it's
fine del
fair
lavoro,
that
siate
after your
connessi
working hours
al lavoro?
you must be online for business reasons? Do you
siete
think it's fair?
convinti che
Aren't you
la
convinced
tecnologia, che è un dono del
technology,
creato,
which mind you is a blessing from creation,
potrebbe anche rubarci
but
l'anima?
if misused, it could steal our soul, right?
Il manager ti chiama alle
Your
11 della
manager's
notte
calling you at
per sapere
11
come va.
p.m. to know how
mandatelo a
things
quel
are doing, but
paese.
just tell them to go to hell, you know?
vuole?
What do they want?
Vi deve chiedere alle ore lavorative.
Brunello, we've got 5 minutes.
Allora mi sono soltanto.
And I could listen all day, but I do just want to get through a couple of other questions. I've never lost control of a keynote in such an extraordinary way. Charming, but extraordinary. So to offer that lifestyle to your workers must be very expensive. To offer them that lifestyle, is that why you've always focused at the very top of the market? What is luxury to you?
Ma il lusso, sai, nella storia
Well,
il lusso
luxury
non ha
in
aggettivi.
history, luxury comes by itself.
2000 anni fa
There's no
l'imperatore
adjective
Adriano
attached to it.
andava
2,000
in
years ago,
Senato e
Emperor
diceva,
Hadrian, he would step into the
"Quel
Senate
senatore lì è
and say,
molto
that
chic.
senator is
Non ha
very chic.
molti soldi,
He's
ma
not
chic.
very rich, but
Quel
still
senatore lì
chic.
è
The other
molto
senator,
ricco,
however, is
ma non è
loaded,
raffinato.
wealthy, but definitely not very
Il
refined.
lusso non ha avuto mai
Luxury
aggettivi
has never
nella storia
had any
dell'umanità.
adjectives attached to it in the history of fashion.
A un certo punto
But
credo
at one point,
che sia una
well,
cosa
I believe that luxury
bella,
means
fatta
beautiful
benissimo
product, extremely well made
e molto esclusiva.
and very exclusive. That's what
Questo
luxury
è
is
sicuro.
to you. That's for
A
sure.
un certo punto
You see,
Kant,
Immanuel
dice-
Kant at one point stated,
lusso,
luxury
simbolo del bene
is
morale.
epitomizes moral good.
Quindi vuol dire che se voi
Which
avete prodotto
means
qualcosa
that if you have made
rispetto
something
dell'umanità,
whilst respecting mankind
dove
along the
ognuno ha
process,
avuto
where each
il suo
stakeholder
profitto,
made their own profit,
è l'espressione del bene morale.
then this means that your product is the expression of the
Quindi,
moral
siccome
good.
dobbiamo finire.
So since we have to
Io
wrap up,
voglio dare 3 o 4
so
consigli.
I want to give you a couple of pieces
Da
of advice.
domattina
So
non
from
voglio
tomorrow
sentire la
onwards,
parola
to
paura.
never speak of fear. I don't want to hear the word
Domattina voi
fear.
parlate di speranza.
Tomorrow, hope. You should replace fear with
provvidenza.
hope and providence.
Questo è un secolo d'oro.
This is a golden century. I'm adamant and sure about it.
Abbandonate la paura.
So abandon, drop fear.
Guardate la
Then
povertà
look at
con un
poverty
occhio leggermente
with a
migliore.
in a slightly different way. Don't turn your back on it.
Se potete,
And
fate
if
un
you
complimento che
can,
viene dall'anima a
you see,
qualcuno.
pay compliments to others
quella
if it comes
persona
from your
si
soul.
sentirà meglio.
And that person will feel their spirits lifted.
Tanto tutto ciò
Because everything
che voi fate
that you do,
vi tornerà nella
you
vita.
see, what goes round comes round. You will reap what you sow.
Socrate dice, non lo
Socrates
so che cosa ci
said,
sarà dopo la
I don't
morte,
know what will happen to me, to
sono
us
abbastanza
after death,
sicuro
but I'm pretty sure
che per i
that
buoni sarà
for
diverso
those
che per i
who were
malvagi.
good, it will be better than for the evil
Se
ones.
così non fosse,
And
ho
if
vissuto
that's
meglio.
not the case, then I will have lived better
Mio
anyway.
babbo mi diceva sempre,
My dad
devi
always
essere una
said
persona
to
per
me, you
bene.
must be a
Babbo,
good guy. And I
sempre la stessa
said,
cosa.
you keep saying the very same
Quando gli
things.
facevano vedere le
So,
classifiche di
and then when
Forbes,
he was shown the Forbes ranking, you know, the billionaires and stuff,
non sono
about me,
interessato.
he said, I'm not
Sei una
interested.
persona per bene.
Are you a good man? That's the only thing that
Dovete essere le
matters.
persone
So that's why you should be good.
Tornate a scherzare nelle
Please,
vostre
and
famiglie,
once
coi
again,
vostri
go back to your
partner.
family and play
Tornate a
jokes and
gioire.
pranks. Be happy with
Tornate
your
a
families.
discutere.
You know, talk to them.
State con i vostri
And
partner,
spend time with
fatevi
your partner
ubriacare
and
dal
just
cielo.
let the heavens
Dalle
make you
stelle.
dizzy with happiness.
Ma quando
The
siete in
stars.
difficoltà,
When you are struggling in life,
non chiediamo aiuto al cielo?
don't we all look up to find
Non
inspiration
alziamo più
and
la
help?
testa.
We have stopped
State
raising
seduti.
our gaze.
Guardate che Benedetto, San
You know,
Benedetto dice
Saint
che il
Benedict
silenzio
stated and said
è quel
that
momento
silence
luminoso
is the bright moment,
da dove partono i
and
grandi progetti della vita.
that's where the big projects in life stem
È
from.
difficile intervista così,
It's a difficult interview, I'm sure.
It's not an interview.
No.
I have two. I know I've got 2 minutes left, but I've got 2 questions.
2 minuti.
2 that I want to ask you, and I'd like you to answer.
Rispondesse però stavolta.
You've talked a lot about pursuing elegant growth, gracious growth. You're also a public company. This is something everybody in this room is probably wrestling with, how to grow, but grow in a sustainable way. How do you approach growth? What is civilized growth? How do you balance that out?
Ma io ho sempre cercato una sana
Well, I have always
un
pursued
equilibrio
a
tra
healthy
profitto e
growth
dono,
and a balance between profit and
e ho
giving
sempre
back.
pensato
And
che
I have
l'impresa
always
dovrebbe lavorare
maintained that your
per
business
la
should
sostenibilità
work
climatica,
in favor of
per
climate
la sostenibilità
sustainability,
umana,
in favor
quanto
of
guadagni
human
e dove
sustainability,
guadagni,
which means how
per una
much money do you
sostenibilità
make? Is it
spirituale.
enough? So spiritual
Tu mi tratti
sustainability,
meglio,
because
il
if
mio
you
spirito
treat
sta
me
meglio.
better, then my spirits
una
will be
sostenibilità
lifted.
culturale.
And also cultural sustainability. What do we do in order to foster our
per una
communities?
sostenibilità tecnologica.
And also technological sustainability at
Devo
that
essere
too.
sempre connesso con te,
Why
mi rubi
should I
l'anima.
always be
E per
online
ultimo,
for business
io
reasons?
ve lo dico
And
come
last but
italiano,
not least,
la
as an
sostenibilità
Italian,
morale.
I'm talking about moral sustainability,
2000 anni
ethical
fa l'imperatore
sustainability.
Adriano dice,
2000
Augusto
years
dice
ago,
una cosa
the Emperor
bellissima.
Augustus said something
Mette 3
very
regole.
interesting. 3 rules, he
Vivi
said.
onestamente,
You should live with honesty.
non recar danni a
You should
nessuno,
never harm
ad
anyone,
ognuno il suo.
and to each their own.
Ti è piaciuta questa?
Did you like that?
Very
Adriano,
succinct.
lo dice Augusto 2000 anni
Augustus
fa.
said this 2000 years ago.
Avete capito?
Got it?
I'm just going to fire through them because, I mean, and do pigeonhole Mr. Cucinelli
Abbiamo un
after this
minuto.
conversation.
We
I'm
have
sure
1 minute, I think.
No, scherzo.
Okay, no, one question I also had for you is you're in a position where you've built this business from scratch on these philosophies, but a lot of this industry needs to pivot towards them. So how do we guide as a community people that need to move towards these goals rather than those who have begun with them at their heart?
Come possiamo portare avanti questo tipo di ideali anche con gli altri?
Partiamo domattina.
Well, we can start
Abbiamo il nostro
tomorrow
sogno.
morning. We have our dream.
Facciamo i nostri piccoli
We
progetti.
make us
dei sani
we
progetti di
pursue
crescita,
our small projects.
mettete dei
Then
budget
you
dei
also
vostri
have, if you have a
progetti
business,
sani,
you also have to set
e
healthy
se mettete i
budgets.
budget alti,
Because if your
state sempre
budget is
così.
too high, then you are
Tornate alla
on your
casa
toes
la
all
sera,
the
siete
time.
sotto il
You
budget.
go back home and say, oh,
Ai
I'm
vostri
undershooting the
partner
budget.
dite
What
che
about
siete
your
sotto il
partners? You
budget.
tell your
Il
partners,
vostro figlio
oh, I'm not, I
siete
can't
sotto il
reach the
budget.
budget. You tell to your
Compriamo
children,
una
I can't
casa,
reach the
siamo sotto il budget.
Can we buy a home? No, because we haven't reached the budget.
Provate a vivere
So
normalmente.
you should, however, try
Ritroviamo
and live
il va-
normally.
il
We
valore
should rediscover
morale di
the moral,
vivere
ethical value
secondo natura.
of living according to nature.
C'è un temporale, arriva il
There's a
temporale.
hailstorm, yes, there's a
Come
hailstorm.
facevano i greci
You know,
dall'800
like the
al
Greeks
400
did
avanti
in,
Cristo.
before Christ. That's what they did. They would,
Vivevano secondo
they
misura.
would, go with the stream. Live
Io voglio
within
vivere secondo
measure.
misura.
I want to live
E ho
within
trasmesso al
measure.
mercato,
And that's what
voglio fare
I
impresa,
said to the market. I
Vorrei
do
essere
want
un
to
capitalista,
make business. I want to be a
capitalista
capitalist,
contemporaneo.
but a contemporary capitalist.
fare profitti
I
con
want
etica, dignità e
to
morale.
make a profit with ethics and
rispetto di
morals,
ogni essere umano.
whilst respecting every single
Se voi mi
human
chiedete
being.
che io devo
If
fare
you
qualcosa,
ask me,
qualche soldo in
if you
più
demand from me that I
contro
need some
l'umanità,
more money,
io non
more for profitability against humanity,
benissimo
I'm
quando
never
non
going to
c'avevo
do
soldi.
that. I was happy without
Al bar
any
non
money
c'avevamo
in my
niente,
pocket.
stavo
I
benissimo.
had nothing when I was hanging out at the
Adesso
bar.
sono ricco.
Now I'm a wealthy man.
Ma mio babbo mi diceva,
But my
"Vuoi essere
father
più ricco del
would
cimitero?"
always say to me, do you want to be the wealthiest
Dicevo,
guy
"Babbo,
in
ma
the
il cimitero è
graveyard, in the
piccolino."
cemetery? And I said, Dad, but you see the cemetery is very tiny. It's not
Ricordati che i
difficult to be
debiti
the richest
lavorano anche
one.
la domenica.
And then he would say, don't forget the
Allora,
debt works on
vivete
Sundays too.
normalmente, fatevi uno scherzo,
Lead,
guardate il
lead a normal
cielo.
life, play pranks,
Ubriacatevi dei
look
grandi
up and
ideali.
always be
Dei
busy with
grandi
great
ideali. Sa
ideals.
che tocca andare via.
I think we have to leave.
What a man, what a speaker.
Vi
I think
invitiamo
that's
a
all we have
Solomeo.
time for.
You are
Thank
invited.
you.
Sembrava Solomeo. Venite a trovarci. L'ultima. Oh. L'ultima.
One last thing.
È un momento abbastanza difficile per l'umanità.
It is a tough
Che il
time for
creato ci
mankind.
protegga,
May creation
perché
protect
arriveranno
us.
degli
Because
esseri umani
human
geniali
genius
nei
like
rapporti
human
umani,
beings
e
will
questo va bene.
turn up and they will
Grazie.
settle.
Sono venuto con grande
I've
piacere.
come here with a pleasure, truly,
Adesso torno nel mio paesino.
and I'm going back to my hamlet.
Grazie.